Nielsen Catalina is really focused on how advertising works. I know you know a good bit about the company, and it's doing tremendously well, frankly. We're in our 10th year, about to celebrate our 10th anniversary, and really the state of the business in terms of targeting and optimization and measurement, which are the key areas, as well as forecasting that we work in, couldn't be healthier. I mean, I think there are a lot of big questions, that surround all of us at this point in time, and NCS is not immune, but our job is to try to help the industry answer those questions. And one of those, of course, right now involves the consumer, right? And how to reach the right consumer in this fragmented and ever more complex media environment. And I guess we're all affected in that way. Intellectually, you and we were just talking about it a little bit earlier, as professionals, but also as consumers. I mean, if you think about it, when at the end of the day, you think about looking at watching or listening or reading something, you have to make a ton of choices as a consumer, right? Some of them are rapid fire, but they're not that easy. One, you have to decide what in fact you want to watch. You have to decide what distribution path you want to watch it on. Then you have to decide, am I going to use my mobile? Am I going to, there's so many choices. And then compounding that, there's the privacy issue, which so many people are thinking about.
Tell us a bit about what you do to help your clients solve some of these problems, because I think you've just identified some of the biggest, most pressing problems facing the entire advertising industry. I'm sure it'll be a topic of a lot of what happens this weekend. How are you helping clients deal with these problems?
Yes, well, what we hear from our clients is that it's increasingly harder and harder to get the next new customer. It's increasingly more expensive. And so one of the ways that we're helping clients, and what we're recommending, certainly based on data that we've seen over a myriad of studies, is to help them retain their current customers, which is really job number one. And what we do is how we help them retain it is we think of advertising in really a virtuous circle. You have to think very carefully about targeting. You have to think about how you optimize that targeting, and then we help them measure it. And after that, there's forecasting, and the cycle begins yet again, as it does in so much of life.
And you're obviously a global business working with global clients.
We are working with global clients, although NCS currently works with the CPG suppliers or advertisers and brands in the United States. Some of our work, of course, is applicable across the globe, and we're actually asked to speak frequently there. I'll bring up one other point, because you asked what we're doing. One of the other pain points that we hear about in the industry is simply the increasing need for speed. When you talk about this plethora of choices, this fragmentation across every piece of the business, we have to find new ways to accelerate, to add agility to the system. So one of the things that we're going to announce this weekend that I'm pretty excited about is that we've been working on machine learning and artificial intelligence for the last 5 years with a lot of testing and rigor. And as of this week, and actually in the next few months, you'll hear that we're adding machine learning to our targeting products, and then as well to our measurement products. And it's really not just speed for speed's sake, which would be great in a sense, but it's really to add more time for reflection, around insights for our clients, reflection time and consulting time for Nielsen Catalina associates, so that they can actually dig in with clients and with brands and better understand what those data are telling us. And that's really exciting.
I mean, that sounds incredibly exciting.
It is.
How have you managed to deliver that? Do you have a huge technology team internally working on building out these new solutions for your clients?
I wouldn't call it a huge team, but we've got some huge brains in the company, both at the data science level, at the research and development level, but also in the technology level and the operations level. And again, we've been working on this for 5 years, so we're really excited that we can actually bring it to market. In fact, it's a big innovation. We're harvesting a lot of the innovation work that we've invested in for a long period of time. I guess I'd say one other thing about it, though, that I think is important, which is, as I said, speed is not important just for speed's sake, and I'd also say that data is not important just for the sake of data, right? Data has to be good data. Data has to be quality data. It's similar to when we eat now. We have some mindfulness about how we eat. We know that if we really think about what we eat, we'll be healthier, and rather than just putting anything in our bodies. And it's the same with data.
And that question about data quality, I think, is becoming incredibly important across the industry. I sometimes think we're right at the early days of thinking about how we deal with quality data, and particularly when you look at things like privacy and the sort of uneven landscape evolving across the USA. I think we're going to see a lot more change in the next decade. How do you clean your data? What's your data hygiene code of practice?
Oh my gosh, I'm a little new to the role to give you a lot of detail around it, but I will tell you that it is a rigorous and exhausting process, at least from my point of view. I'm sure those that actually do the work would say, oh, it's the most exciting part of the business. But some of the output of it, and this is actually another outgrowth of the machine learning pieces, we'll be announcing that in fact we are able to measure comparably inside publisher-controlled environments as well as outside environments, and that does lead to part of the issue that I think you're addressing. So we'll tell you more about that during the course of the week.
And tell me about privacy. So we're starting to see in Europe, obviously, GDPR has now rolled out, and we're less than a year in, but already I think people have concerns about the unevenness of the landscape. So GDPR in Germany is very different to GDPR in the UK. In the USA, my sense is we're starting to see something similar unfolding. Different states are adopting very different approaches. How do you deal with that landscape?
Oh, that's exactly right. I think that we'll see the US follow Europe, which is leading the way here very soon. We're expecting more clarity around California, I think in late August, and we will find ways to deal with it. I do think, obviously privacy is an important piece of the puzzle, but consumers also enjoy advertising. Consumers love brands. They want to be emotionally connected to their brands, and the best targeting and the best privacy that protects and balances that targeting actually delivers against the brand and the brand promise.
Tell me about your relationships with the big internet platforms. How do you work with them? Obviously, their use of data is one of the things which has powered their huge growth, but it's also controversial at times. How do you deal with the big internet platforms and their data lakes?
Most of them are great partners of ours. We do a tremendous amount of business with the companies that you would expect that we would, yes, because they're doing so much business with the major US CPG brands. So, we are all into this together, the advertiser, the agency, the publishers. Everyone in this is one big ecosystem. So we do business with them in ways that allow them as much as possible to be comparable to non-publisher controlled systems. And that's been one of the breakthroughs that we had earlier in the year. And we've made some announcements around that as well.
So when I look more broadly at the wider industry, there's a huge amount of change, it seems to me, happening in the world of measurement and data. So you look at the current bid process, obviously for Kantar, obviously we have private equity owns GFK at the moment. What's your sense of the landscape for companies like Nielsen more broadly? What's happening really? Is demand, you assume it's the best of times in some ways, but the industry seems to have some challenges as well.
Oh, isn't that always the case?
Sure.
I wish I could say, oh, we've arrived at Eden, but it never actually happens when we arrive. We just keep finding another issue and then solving that next issue. I would say, and I can only speak for NCS, of course. Nielsen, I'm sure you'll speak to later in the day or this week. We believe that there are ways to manage this, and that's what we do every day. We problem solve. In fact, I laugh with my new team. We are problem solving every week, and it's sort of energizing, actually. So I'm not sure that fully answered your question, John, but
I think it's a good effort. You obviously work with some of the biggest brands, some of the biggest advertisers in the world.
We do, directly.
And I'm guessing their response to things like real-time, automation, machine learning varies very widely, but different companies are doing quite different things. Tell us a bit about how you see clients responding to these developments.
You're right, there is a wide range of responses. Some want to very much optimize creative, some are optimize price in the bid process. Some are not interested in those, some are looking at a higher level order at the moment. And I think that each brand is probably, and each company is a little bit on its own journey. I'd also say that the publishers are helping to lead the way as well, helping to energize the system. And certainly the agencies are wonderful partners and facilitators of what the brand's needs are. But I don't know that I can give you any big breakthrough. Maybe after the end of the week, but I'm on the front end.
I want to end on a positive note in a second, but before we get on to that, when you look at the 2020s and some of the issues that as an industry we're going to have to deal with, what do you think is the biggest challenge the industry needs to address? What do you want to see real progress being made on in 2020, 2022, 2021?
I think as usual, it always comes back to the consumer, and how do we help the consumer help themselves, really. That's our jobs at the end of the day as stewards of brands and as stewards of media companies and platforms, and that's the big challenge, and it touches on all the things that you've already asked about, right? Privacy, bid process, confusion, it goes down the line, but again, if we just, as usual, focus on the consumer, we're going to be in our best shape ever.